This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, meeting called to order 6:03 p.m. Minutes are in your packet. I will share my screen for those online. Any questions on the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes? Sure. All in favor? Derek, Marie, approve the minutes? Marie, is your hand raised?
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you great.
Oh, good. Okay, for whatever reason, I was tossed out of a go-to, and I'm just coming back in now. So I think, yeah, the reason I raised my hand is because I'm in a meeting room at a hotel, and there's someone else that wants to use the meeting room at 7:30. So I wanted to know, are we going that long, or how is that working tonight?
No, I don't think we'll go that long. I think we're gonna get through this pretty quickly.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'd say 7, if not a little after. Marie, do you have any issues with the minutes? Marie?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, do you have any issues with the minutes?
Not as far as I know, I can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not large enough.
Eric, how about you?
I'm good with them.
Chris, I had a question about
Yes.
the minutes. Just Ally, is she going to be a regular attendee at our meetings, or?
I wanted to ask her today. I was only here half a day though. I thought she was going to be, but she's not here tonight. I think she'll definitely be involved when we have projects that have to do with open space and kind of the management of that open space. I know she's definitely interested. It's just a matter of her schedule, and I believe she has the authorization to start coming to these meetings. She wants to be involved in the shade tree as well.
And then Cindy attended last month. Is she a
Yes.
member now, or is
She's not a member. She did submit an application.
Okay.
So the board has her application. She did reach out to me. I think she wants to continue to come to meetings until she's appointed. But she said she couldn't make it.
Okay, but the expectation is that we'll be adding her as Monday.
I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, the expectation, she will definitely continue to come to meetings. As far as like officially appointing her, I know that usually like they did with all you guys, they had kind of like a batch interview process.
Yeah.
So I don't know the next time they're scheduling an interview. We have a couple other like zoning hearing board positions. So it might be a few months until she's.
Okay, but she's applied. And
Yes, she definitely has an interest.
Likely for it.
Yeah, we had another resident who was potentially interested, but they haven't filled out an application yet, so I'm gonna follow up with them. And then with Cindy and that other resident, that would give us our 7 total.
Yeah.
We would still like to have maybe a planning commission member, but it's tough with their schedules, so. Okay. Any other questions on the minutes? Otherwise, I think that's good. Election of officers. So I talked to Mark. He was fine with having election of officers tonight. Typically, what we do is we would ask for nominations for someone to be an officer. All we need is a chair, and the role of the chair would be to work with me the week before the meeting to set the agenda, and then to actually run the meeting, so you guys don't listen to me all the time. I will still record the meetings for minutes, and I will still prepare the meeting minutes, but it would be kind of a chair show. I would recommend maybe a vice chair as well, just to take the duties if that chair is absent for whatever reason. So if anyone would like to nominate someone for chair, we can do that now. We'll vote on that. You have to accept the nomination as well, and then we can do the same for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Frank. If we accept Frank.
Would you like to?
Well,
Would
the
you
only
accept-
caveat to that is that I'm the member with the soonest expiration date on my.
Oh, yeah, because of the staggering.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, yeah, I assume that you're gonna. Did you make the paperwork to come back? Because
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure as long as you're interested.
Well, I haven't. Well, I mean, my term doesn't expire until next December, so I haven't submitted anything for extending it yet.
Yeah. No, I think that's.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy to have someone else do it if there's other people who are interested.
Any other nominations? Derek and Marie, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine.
I can't really hear you.
Let me. Right. I'm sure
Okay, can you hear me, Chris?
Yes, you're duplicated. I'm going to mute one of your. You're technically in here twice, Marie. One of them says Marie North. The other
Yeah,
one
I'm
says-
seeing that.
Yeah. I just muted the one, and it sounds better. So Frank has accepted the nomination. We can vote for Frank to be the chair. All in favor?
Did I accept the nomination?
Oh, did you?
I asked if anybody else was interested. That's.
Are there any other nominations? It's up to you. If you don't, I'll vote to someone else.
No, I'll accept. That's fine.
Okay. All right. All in favor of Frank being chair? That's one.
Aye.
Marie?
All right.
Okay. And Mark emailed me. He said if Frank is nominated, I would vote for him to be chair.
Okay. All right.
How about a nomination for vice chair? in case Frank is absent 1 month.
I think Sarah would be great in continuing her vice chair position from the GAC.
Do that.
Yeah. Do you accept? I agree, Dick. Do you accept?
Um,
It would only be if Frank can't be here.
yeah, all right.
Okay. Good. Wonderful. All in favor for Sarah to be vice chair?
I,
All right.
Aye.
Excellent. Derek,
I
I'm
need your phone
assuming.
number.
I was gonna say, do I have to vote if I nominate?
No, I think you're good.
Okay.
So what we'll do, Frank, next month, I will reach out to you the third week of the month, and we'll talk through what we think should be on the agenda and kind of the flow of the
Alright,
meeting.
yeah, this will be, I mean, when it was the Green Advisory Council, I was doing the agendas, the minutes.
Yeah.
All of it, so.
Yeah.
This seems like a lot easier, so.
I think minutes are the worst.
Minutes are the worst.
Personally,
Yeah.
like, I love that you do the minutes. I know you hate them.
I'm glad you guys appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, having done it for 3 years, I definitely appreciate someone else being willing to do it.
It's tough because we talk about so much, and I want to kind of condense it down into just the main points. And we always have the recording. I always put it on YouTube if anyone wants to go back to maybe that one. Okay. Frank, would you like to take over as chair, or do you want me to kind of run through the rest of it?
Why don't you run through today's meeting?
That sounds good.
Since we didn't have a correct meeting.
Yes. So the landscapes plan, we ran through a lot of this at the last meeting. I sent out the digital version to everyone. What I wanted to share was in your meeting packet, I summarized the comments that we've received. Marie, can you see what I'm sharing now with the little table?
Yes.
Okay. So we received comments from all of you, the Board of Commissioners, Landscape and Shade Tree, and the Planning Commission. We also received the Environmental Committee and the full commission of the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission reviewed the draft plan just last week. So I have that letter here in your packet. And we had a 2-week public comment period. But we've always been accepting comments and questions about this. We just wanted to make sure that there is a formalized period of time that the draft plan, that they can make comments on specifics of the draft plan. So taking all of these comments, what I've added in, or what I will add as far as edits are identified here. Just pages 26, 27, just reformatting some pictures and text. Page 29 was a spotlight on a local resident, on a farmer. I wanted to get his approval from his family. He passed away about a month or two ago, and he was very helpful in the development of this plan. And we had interviewed him, and I wanted to kind of give a little spotlight there, so his family approved that. Page 56 was the, it's one of our water maps, and it had some watersheds on it. And this was also a comment from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. So I just want to update this map just with better labeling that highlights the streams specifically and the watersheds that they're located in. Page 64 was another comment from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. So we had just this was under the wetlands section, and we just had a picture of a wetland, and they suggested actually showing a map of the identified wetlands. So I will use the National Wetlands Inventory and provide a map there. I think that's a helpful addition. Page 81, we had a space held for a case study for adaptive reuse of a historic resource. I will be adding in something from the historic Aldi Mansion in Doylestown. Our preservation consultant, his office was out of there. He was involved specifically in the preservation of that, and we would talk about the use of that historic structure to allow for wedding venues, offices in an area that typically wouldn't be allowed. Page 97, we had 2 case studies. they were outside of the area, or one was in Bethlehem, Shoal Orchards, and then Neversink Farm, I believe, was upstate New York. We heard some comments to try to use some more local examples, so we'll be using a case study, just a quick plug for the Crooked Row farm stand up on 309, and the Nonamaker Farm, which is just to the southwest part of the township. I like those because they're very close to the township, and they are actually a little further outside of a lot of where the focus of this plan was. Page 101, just replacing the incorrectly labeled open space. Page 109, we are holding a space for a case study, so we'll add, there's a cluster development in Doylestown Township that had some good information behind it, so we'll add that as just an example of protecting open space with clustering, and one of the mechanisms there. Page 124, just relabeling a typo, and in the action plan, Frank, thank you for the suggestion. The action plan highlights the relevant chapters, and I think it was a little confusing. It looks like it was just kind of faded out, but not fully. So I think we'll just. Other than that, we didn't get any other significant comments. So tonight, what I'm asking of the EAC is a formal recommendation for the landscapes plan to go to the Board of Commissioners for adoption, barring these edits that we'll be adding in, or if there's any other comments or things you guys would like to discuss, I'll leave it open for.
That was an incredibly thorough and detailed document, so I was very, very impressed with what I saw.
Thank you.
The hours I've gone into that, I mean, I can't even begin to even know anything outside of what you've done. So,
Well, you were there right in the
Yeah.
beginning, so you know kind of the extent of this. So.
well, you've been working on it a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Marie and Derek,
I have
any?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
some comments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you hearing me multiple times?
Yes.
And I don't know how to change that.
I could call her and FaceTime her.
So I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna try to mute one and unmute the other.
Okay.
Are you seeing your second login? Are you on your phone as well?
No, wait, you know what? That could be what the problem is.
We're probably hearing you through your phone on the computer. Yeah, actually.
You could disconnect one person.
I'm not sure. All I
Yeah.
did was download.
I'm going to remove. Excuse Marina. There we go. I'm going to remove one of yours. There. How's that, Marie?
Yes. Are you hearing me more than once now?
No, much better. I just kicked you out
excellent.
It
Okay.
must have. You probably started to go into that way, but we can hear you loud and clear through the comments.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, a couple of quick questions. I looked through the printed copy that I had that I know you said had some typos and some things going on in it that needed to be corrected. I never got over to the digital one, okay, which I'm sure others looked at, and you said a lot of corrections had been made there. So some of the notes I made that I didn't get to you were typos, and you have probably caught those already. So that's fine.
We did like a full proofread with other staff.
Okay. Okay, so those are some of the things I caught. The other thing I wanted to say, and I think I overheard Sarah say it, and I know I said it at our last meeting, I am just amazed, and it's extraordinary the amount of work that went into this. It's beautiful, it's detailed. I really can't say enough about it. So it's just great. So much good information. The only other comment I have, and I don't know how you feel about it or the commissioners or whatever, but on page 53, you do talk about the forest stewardship program. And on some of the pages, you give an example of it, of some things that are going on in South Whitehall Township. I think it would be great if you could add our forest to the bottom of that. And I don't know if you can or not, but it's so extraordinary, first of all, to have a forest, a stewardship forest in South Whitehall. And the other thing is, I believe we're the smallest one in the state, but we are registered. We are registered with the U.S. Forest Service. So
Okay.
it's kind of unique to the township, and I don't know if you can add it.
I think I could probably add a whole extra page. And I have some good photos that you sent me. So on page 53, we would maybe split it up. I could maybe even add in a picture of the Miyawaki method on page
Right.
53, move the forest stewardship program to page 54 and have some photos of your forest that you sent us um, on those following pages. So I can follow up with you as well. I want to make sure I get all of the accurate description of what that is. So it's a certified or it's a registered forest.
Yeah, right. We're a registered stewardship forest, and and it's registered with the U.S. Forest Service.
Okay.
And the reason we're registered and the reason we have the sign and the designation is because we have a forest stewardship plan. You have to go through that process in order to become recognized, in other words, you're following through, you have a plan, you approached your service forester, you have a plan and you wanted a plan, you have a plan in place, he signs off on it, and then he registers our little forest with the U.S. Forest Service.
I think that's wonderful, Marie, and that actually helps. I wanted to give this sort of call out a little bit more detail anyway, and kind of make the
Okay.
distinction between there's sort of the program, which I think is to help landowners, and then there's the actual stewardship plan, which is more specific to how you're managing the forest. I believe is how my interpretation is.
Right.
Because
There is, you are right. There is a program to become a forest stewards. Okay, and I considered that, but at the time, the two of us had to attend that program, and my husband's schedule was not allowing that to happen. So we never went through that training. But that's separate from having a stewardship forest.
Yeah, so I think it's great. What I'll do, Marie, is I will follow up with you. If you could maybe email me some of the specifics that you have, even if you have a copy of your forest stewardship plan, even if you have a paper version, I can kind of scan it in here because I would love to just have it too, if you're willing to share
Okay,
it. And then
all
I have
right.
a bunch of pictures that you sent me previously.
Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, let's be in touch. I get home, what's today? I'm so confused. It's terrible. Today is
Monday.
Monday, right? Monday, the 26th. Okay, I get home tomorrow afternoon. Wednesday, my day is just totally insane and booked. So probably I should reach out to you early next week. Does that work for you, Chris? Okay,
Yeah, we have a couple weeks until we September 12th is the planning commission meeting, which is the next time I want to take the final plan. So as long as I have it before that Thursday on September 12th.
and what was it, September, what was the date?
12th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you want this forest stewardship info before, we should talk before, we
Yeah,
need it all before
next
September
week is
12th.
good. Yeah,
Okay,
early
great.
next week that'll give me time
Okay,
to add stuff. And what I can do, I can start to play around and add in what I think, and maybe even send you what I'm thinking as a draft.
oh,
And
that'd be
you can
cool.
have
And Chris, it
Okay,
has to go
that's great.
and before it goes to the board.
We wanted to go to the planning commission first, and then that way we can document that the planning commission made a formal recommendation for it. I haven't received really any comments from planning commission members. I unfortunately was not at the last meeting when we kind of brought up that we'd be asking them to review this, but when I saw there wasn't any concerns or questions about that. And so the timeline would be the 12th planning commission, the Thursday planning commission, and then September 18th, that following Wednesday, the board of commissioners would adopt the final plan.
Okay.
Marie, did you have any other suggestions or comments?
I think, like I said, because I didn't look at the digital copy, I didn't have an opportunity, and I know you said that there was a lot of changes and you corrected a lot of things, and added what you needed to add.
If you have like something you're really concerned about, I can pull it up on the screen if you want.
Yeah, I really, like I said, what I saw were typos, and I made notes as I went through it, and that's a lot of what I saw. I paid a lot of attention to pages 36 and 37 about there was a section there about prime farmland. So I need to look at that again. I thought the map on page 37, at least that's what it is in the hard copy, was very informative. As far as the farmland piece is concerned, let me just see if I made any other notes on that.
And while you're doing
Especially
that,
the soils, explaining soils. I just thought you did such a great job with that.
thank you. I mean, I was worried it would be excessive, but it was something that we have such great soils in the township, and it's so important for any of our future preservation. So Marie, what I have updated, the updated page 36 and 37, there are two maps in here, one showing farms over 10 acres, and then the other one showing the soils.
Right. Okay, so I could see there's a new picture added that's not in this hard copy.
And I might have added this
On the
picture
so-
here.
on the soils page.
I think I might actually cut down a little bit of the information on soils that I had initially, just to have it a little bit more consumable.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I can, when I have the opportunity, I'll look at that digital copy. Just for my own knowledge, I realize you have to move it along. But
Okay.
the reason I thought, and I don't want to belabor this, but the reason I thought some of this was so important is it goes back to those initial meetings about people, the residents in South Whitehall, wanting, farmland preservation and wanting, and the importance of farmland and this type of thing. That was so big for them, but I don't know how much they understood about it's more than that, especially when you're talking about the farmland preservation program, and the soils is a huge part of that. It's huge. So for you to have that information in here, I think is critical. And I was glad to see it.
Great.
And other than that, let me see. And I think also the Act 319 info that you put in on page 39. I don't know how many people were aware of Act 319. That's great. And the rest of it, like I noticed, like there were some missing letters and words on certain pages, some typos. Page 60 had Route 308 instead of Route 309. It was things like that, which you might have caught.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I think the paper copy I gave you was also the same paper copy I gave to the staff who was helping me proofread it. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand. And you told us that there were things, I get it. Yep.
send it to Judy Cooper.
I know, I was just thinking, I wonder if she's gonna get back up. I'm gonna text her.
Marie, any other comments, or Derek?
That's it for me.
Excellent, thank you, Marie, and thank you for
Yep.
taking the time to go through it.
Yep.
And I've got no comments.
Excellent. Okay, so barring the changes that I proposed, what I'd be asking for is motion to make a formal recommendation to the Board of Commissioners on the 18th to adopt the South Whitehall Landscapes Plan.
Okay, I make that recommendation.
All right, great,
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, moving on. So, following the adoption of the landscape plan, and here's just the comment letter from the Planning Commission. It's in there. There was a nice little article as well in the local paper in LehighValleyNews.com. It was a different reporter, I think, who covers the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. But he put a nice little article in about the Planning Commission's review of it. So it was nice to see. But yeah, we just got those comments last week, so I'll incorporate those. So following the adoption of that, the next thing is the 2024, and I've added 2025 since essentially, we're more than halfway through the year, and I would think that a lot of this would carry over into next year. Draft work plan. So for those of you here, it's in your packet. All I did was really kind of just try to put together a more, formal summary of what we've been talking about, starting with, what an EAC is, and then the 6 duties of the South Whitehall EAC, and then some specifics on the goals for each duty in the next year and a half, and the associated proposed activities, and the associated existing township plans and initiatives, just for reference. So the plan here would be making the modifications to this work plan. Then I would recommend that we send this to the Board of Commissioners to actually get a motion to approve this work plan. So then it comes back, so the EAC approves everything that's in here, the Board of Commissioners approves everything that's in here, and you guys are off and running. If you want to take a couple moments to go through that, I'm going to run and grab my charger. I think I'll just screen share. Sorry. Sorry about that. I should spring it every time. And Marie, were you able to get the email with the meeting packet, or do you want me to page through this?
I was not able to look at the email. Like I said, if you feel we need to page through it, do it. But I also, in my running around this week, when I get home, I'm hoping that I can pick up my hard copies. That may not help you tonight, but I do want to have them.
So, Chris, if I could make a suggestion.
Yeah.
mean, the plan as written is pretty comprehensive, but pretty broad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's more here than we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is maybe next month we go through an exercise of trying to pick 4 or 5 to really focus on. And some of them I think are pretty generic or non-specific. So the ones we pick, I think we should try to identify a specific action that we're going to take related to that priority, right? I mean, so, invite staff and subject matter experts to present on current stormwater initiatives. If we pick that one, how many of those are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And, are we going to do 2 of those or 3 of those or, so I think the more
building out the details of
the more
that.
specific the action items, the more likely they are to get done, and the more we can hold ourselves accountable as to whether we've achieved them or not, right? So, if you write very broad action items, then I think they tend to just get sort of lost.
Step one, what can we do?
So, I mean, there's lots of good stuff here, and I think it is all stuff that we could be working on, but, we're only 5 people now, maybe 6, 7 in the future. But, I think it's important to really, for this group, kind of focus on some things and commit to, these are the 5 things we're going to do the remainder of this year and into next year. Now, some of these are ongoing things that, we can say, as open space opportunities come up, we'll look at them, right? I mean, I think we can have a set of activities like that. But as far as initiatives, I think we should identify 4 or 5 things that we're going to try to really drive as a. So.
I like that.
I'd like to hear what other people think, but.
Do you think maybe we could also assign specific tasks to like one person and hold them accountable for one, general thing that we kind of come up with? Do you know what I mean? Instead of just saying, as a group, let's come up with one thing, we might make more progress if we assign one task to each person to come back then the next time and say, what is it?
So what we did on the Green Advisory Council is we actually formed subcommittee. So 1 or 2 people were responsible for this activity, right? So,
Right. Makes sense.
like if we're going to prepare a presentation,
Yes,
for something, I think we should identify somebody's going to volunteer to prepare the first draft of that, right? So
Makes sense.
yeah. So I agree. I think that's a great idea.
I definitely think for the prep, some of it I kind of anticipated, like an action item would be the subject for a meeting. So like if we were doing a mapping exercise, staff would bring in all the mapping and then we would sit down and do that. That would be just that one meeting that we would go through that and kind of check that off of the list. I like the idea of identifying kind of the priorities and providing more details for that. I think that's certainly helpful for everybody to understand. Might I suggest that if you like some of these actions, maybe we keep them on just to kind of give that big picture, because I think that this is helpful for the Board of Commissioners to sort of see the long-term goal for where some of the things are going, but then we can identify.
Yeah, I would say we supplement the work plan with an action,
I like
a list of action items, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I think everything here is worthwhile stuff that we could get involved in. So I wouldn't pick anything out.
I don't see the green gala anywhere, so that would be my only.
I put that into
Okay. All right.
What?
Fine.
investigate opportunities for an EAC-led event to celebrate green choices and environmental benefits.
Oh, it's
The Green
I can-
Gala.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I felt like part of the exercise would be to determine the specific goal of that, because sometimes like a green gala might be a fundraising goal, sometimes it's an awareness goal. So to kind of, without pigeonholing yourself into doing one thing, to develop first what the goal of that event would be.
It would take a
then
long time too. I mean, I think that would be like a 2025.
This is
Yeah,
is
but that's a
what-
perfect example of a generic
Yeah.
kind of goal. that
Yeah.
We should reduce into a specific action.
Well, I
right?
think it could be fundraising
Yeah.
and awareness. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and a lot of this too, like, I mean, there's a lot of things in here that I didn't know the specifics that we would need to get through, depending on the nature of how comfortable some people are with identifying, something, or how much more work we need to do. Is it easier for staff to prepare something, or is it a better exercise for, a working group, a subcommittee of 2 people to kind of take between a month and prep and bring something in and we can look at it. So, yeah, I like the idea of getting more specific. So do you want to do that at the next meeting, or do you think that we should try to come up with this as a group in preparation for the next meeting? Maybe everyone submits like their top 5.
Well, how likely do you think the DOC is going to approve this? Like, do you think they're going to change any of this? Should we
It's
wait
your
for
work plan. I think it's more just,
So they're not going to be like, no, you can't do the number 4. You know what I mean? Like,
I think if there is anything that, I mean, nothing in here is out of left field.
yeah.
And I think if there was anything, it would probably be brought up as a question
Okay.
first. That they wouldn't say, like, oh, we're not going to approve the work plan. It would be more, hey,
Gain
can
an
you give us more
understanding into
detail?
why
Yeah.
it's necessary.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's fair. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question,
So-
Chris.
Your question. Vivian.
Go ahead, Marie.
Okay, I'm seeing on my screen, page 10, all of the various activities. Okay, great. My question is this something that you put together after the meetings that we had where we all put our ideas out there? And now you have
Yes.
them listed here. Okay, long-term, short-term, ongoing. Okay, because I couldn't hear everything that was being said, but I thought that's what this was. Okay, very good. Or what it is, rather.
So if I go like to another page, for example, let's look at page 6 here. So when we were having the meetings and discussing this before, I was taking notes on this, and I used the feedback from the group to develop kind of an overall goal related to one of the 6 authorized duties of the EAC, and then try to develop some proposed activities beyond that. So what we're talking about now, Marie, is maybe taking some of these activities and, maybe the top 5 or maybe 1 per duty, and adding a little bit more detail so that we can provide more direction to the membership as to what specifically, who's going to do what that looks like, sort of thing.
And by when.
And by when, yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. And I thought I heard Frank say, I know you have long and short and ongoing, that type of thing, but I thought I heard Frank say choosing some of these because we can't do them all at once and prioritizing. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, Maria, I think that's what I think it's important for us to have some things that we're going to work on with specifics around, what exactly we're going to do and by when.
Right. Okay. I agree.
So my question is, how do we want to go about that? Do you want to have people submit their maybe top actions for next month? Do you want to take a little bit of time and discuss it now? I want to be cognizant of the time. And we don't have much more on the agenda besides maybe I want to hear from Frank about the meeting last week. But just in preparation and what I can do.
Yeah, well, I think this list is great. I mean, this is what we should start with, I think. And I would just ask maybe everybody just review this list, and I don't think it's necessary to collect ideas. I think it'd be better as a discussion as opposed to have everybody voting ahead of time. So I think if everybody just reviews this list and kind of has in their mind what they think is important, and then we discuss it next time. I mean, I think that would work.
Works with me if everybody's comfortable.
My only thing I would say to that is, I don't want to take a big chunk of the next meeting talking about, I'd rather go into the next meeting with a more of an idea to be able to move forward. That makes sense. Maybe I'm getting
Maybe,
impatient.
and that's, I think, if we have maybe those top ideas
Right,
identified already for the next meeting,
yeah, like,
and we spend that time developing the specific actions and who's going to do what to kind of put it.
But I don't think we're going to have consensus, right?
Yeah, I
well,
don't know.
you're right, and I mean, we would have to do it on our off time between us. You know, we could communicate via email and just kind of come up with three that we can delve deeper next time, instead of taking, 25 minutes just to talk about which three it will be. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if everybody doesn't want to do that, obviously we'll go with the group. I'm just thinking of how can we keep the wheels turning.
Marie or Derek, do you guys have thoughts on the best approach to adding some more specifics on kind of some top priorities here and the best use of time?
I heard what Sarah said, and I understand. I also heard what Frank said. Yeah, because what were you thinking, Sarah? We would identify like the top three tonight, or we should do that before the next meeting so that we would discuss the top three? I think I heard you say that was just an example that you used, choosing three.
Yeah, I mean, it could be more. It could be more or less. I mean, I was just thinking maybe if we could identify as a group, either maybe now wouldn't be best because of time and attendance, but from now until the next meeting, if we could communicate via email to each other and we can coordinate that for you, Chris, and just give you extra work,
No, I mean, I'm happy to help synthesize however you guys want to go about it. So don't worry about me.
Okay.
But
I mean, are you suggesting we just do a voting exercise before the next meeting?
I don't
or-
know, what would be the best way to do
I
it?
can probably take if you, and I think I heard this earlier, Frank, that you don't think we're really going to be adding any more to this list.
Yeah, not
This, it's already
It's a
kind of
good
a big
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I can do is maybe prepare some sort of ranking system, like an online voting ranking system, and we can send that out to all the members, and then we can get the feedback from that. If we are getting a consensus, I'll communicate that via email and say these are the top 5 based on the rankings. If it's clearly split, we can come into the next meeting prepared to discuss that. But I can probably prepare something like that by the end of this week so that we can get these out to you guys, start to look at it. And then that way, maybe there will be a clearer top 5.
Yeah.
And then that gives you a little bit more time, a couple of weeks ahead of the next meeting, that we can start to think about some of the details and we can come in prepared for that at the next meeting. If we need to take the time to work on the top 3 and then, 1 or 2, what's on the list, what's not on the list, we can do that.
That sounds great. I think the only addition I would suggest is that we separate the list into the things that would be things that we have to initiate or spearhead versus the things where we're going to just respond to, some input that comes in, and we're going to review
Yes.
something, or because those are things we're going to do on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
They won't necessarily be priorities.
Makes
They're
sense.
just things that are going to be responsibilities of this committee, right? So,
Yes, the only thing, I mean, so some of what I've taken into these notes and maybe it would be helpful to discuss is some of the response type of duties, say, especially everything under EAC duty number 6, that's the subdivision land development review. That's definitely a response. That's not something where it's like a program
right.
waiting to happen. But I think what what I'm finding would be helpful and why I've suggested some of these actions for the EAC to consider now is helping to prepare for receiving responses in something like that, so that when it comes time to, review a land development plan, you guys are comfortable with what your approach is. We as staff have the ordinances updated appropriately, so that I get what you're saying. There's kind of two different sides, but I'm trying to put together maybe like minor steps towards figuring out what some, and the same thing for like reviewing open space plans, open space protection.
Like I see here, you have a checklist, right? So we have to develop a checklist. So,
Trying to get, and that's where it's really hard to prioritize.
Yeah, because they're big items, some of them. Does the time of year have, hold any warrant to pushing things to the top of the list, like with winter coming? Is there anything that we should address?
I think the only thing that's really driven by time is what we discussed a lot at the last meeting with if we're going to adopt a landscapes plan and start to talk about a potential ballot referendum, that has a timeline to it. And I think that's where any actions associated with that, I would say, think about those sooner than later.
Well, it sounds like there's some things on this list that are probably mandatory for us to do, right? I mean, so maybe that's when you go through this list, there may be some ones you want to highlight to say, it's really essential that the EAC does these, and then we could have some discretionary items that we would choose to work on. But, if there's like an open space evaluation checklist, it's probably
I think it's essential if you're going to be reviewing.
Right. So maybe that when you go through this list, you might want to highlight ones that you think are essential for us to work on, and maybe that's all we do for now, right? I mean, maybe there's enough of those that maybe that's all we need to do for now. But
yeah, I mean, if you guys want my opinion and take it, however, I think there's certainly, you were all brought into this and you all came to this kind of with a passion, and I think you want to see things done and you certainly want to try to get into something. I think that is reflected in a lot of actions associated with, providing guidance and providing information to the public and developing programs. I think that I'm hoping that passion won't go away, but I think that starting something new and kind of preparing for some of the things that we are starting to identify already through programs and making sure that the EAC is comfortable in what your role is in that, I would think that would be the priority for now, so that we can get that, get through that. And it's very clear, okay, when we, here's how we're going to talk about an open space program. If we're reviewing open space properties, here's how we will handle that. Then you're comfortable with it whenever that happens. And then trying to dive into some of the other outreach programs and things.
Well, maybe that's a better approach then for now. It's, if you could help us identify the 4 or 5 things that, we really need to be working on right now. And, and so those get to the top of the list and we can develop, what's our work plan for doing those things. That may be enough to get us started. So we don't have to necessarily go through a voting what our priorities are, because it's kind of clear, at least short term, what our priorities need to be.
Yeah, I think there's definitely things, and Tom, if you agree, that are identified in the landscapes plan, things that the board has been talking about, initiatives they're looking at doing, that there's a clear role for the EAC, and I think we can kind of just highlight that and say this is, as an action item A3 of the landscapes plan, here's what the EAC's role would be. We need to figure out the specifics behind that with this group. And I definitely think there's.
Yeah, the board is looking for that, for those tasks to be completed by the EAC and then a recommendation made to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if we can identify what those specific tasks are, then
like things that are
where we start. Yeah.
Floating out there for in some cases a few years, right?
Yeah.
So this is now the landscapes plan is the marching order document to give you your your credence to go forward.
So would that be an answer that wouldn't potentially be answered then until the 19th or the 18th? When the meeting?
Well, I can probably get you the list of those couple items this week, and then if anyone has any questions, you can email me or call me or just email the group, and we can talk about here's the why, and I'll try to put some context to those. And then I think then at our next meeting, we would get down into the details and have that discussion on what do we need? Is there something that two members should be working on? Should we be researching something? Should we be outlining something? Should we be preparing it? Checklist? Should we be researching other open space programs? That sort of thing.
That's the fun part.
What's that?
That's the fun part.
Yeah, I think so. And I think still having this list as kind of I think this was very important. I enjoyed the couple of month exercises of kind of hearing, especially everyone being new to this, like what things you're already aware of as far as environmental concerns in the township, and trying to put some context to those. And then I think this gives us something to work towards in the next year. Because I think a lot of this we'll be able to handle before the end of the year. There's like primary goals associated with the landscapes plan, and then next year start to figure out, how we put direction to some of things.
That's great.
That sounds good.
Chris,
Excellent.
could you just briefly summarize what this next step is? I could hear parts of it, but I'm not, I can hear bits of what Sarah's saying, but if you could just tell me what you guys just said, what we're prioritizing.
Sure. So what I will do, Marie, is we said there's a number of actions and initiatives that have already been kind of a priority, whether it's been, from the board or from what led to the development of the landscapes plan. So what I'll do before the end of this week is send out what I think are those kind of top half a dozen actions that are associated with some of the specific things that we've been hearing for a long time that I think, for example, if there is, something in here about reviewing open spaces for preservation, the immediate goal is not reviewing those open spaces, but the immediate goal would be for the EAC to feel comfortable and develop that process now in order to be prepared whenever that comes in. So we'll kind of tackle I will identify kind of the projects and the initiatives they're associated with for this week. And then if you guys have any questions, you can email the group and we can discuss that via email, or you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to have a phone call with anyone. And then for the next meeting, we would spend that time working through the details of the specifics for those top 5 or 6 items.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Homework. Giving people homework.
Yeah. Okay.
I call it on too. It's funny.
So I think I have my marching orders for this week. I'll identify those projects and the actions, and then we'll go from there. Any other questions on the work plan? And like I mentioned, I think, so the goal would be hopefully by the end of next meeting, we would have that work plan pretty much fleshed out. And then ideally I could maybe we could send it out both by email, like the final version, to get in front of the board of commissioners at their mid-October meeting. Right? Yeah. That way we don't have to wait until our meeting in October. So that potentially at our meeting in October, you would have the approved work plan and we could develop the agenda associated with some of those actions. Okay. Moving on, next thing on the agenda, the Lehigh Valley EAC brainstorming session. Hand over to Frank.
Marie and Derek, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Same for me too. I hear it clear.
Okay, great. So recall that our last meeting, we had Lauren House, who's an intern with the Allentown EAC, attend our meeting and talk about trying to develop a collaboration platform for all of the regional EACs. So there was a follow-up meeting last Thursday in Bethlehem that I attended on behalf of our EAC. There were about 15 people there, about 10 in person and 5 remote. It encompassed about 8 or so area EACs, and the topic was to present. Lauren was the presenter, and she presented a couple different options for platforms that we could use for this online collaboration tool. So we did a brainstorming around what kind of features that we would want to include in this platform. Things like calendars where you could see when each EAC was meeting, if they were having events or speakers, etc. A file repository where people could put documents, that sort of thing. So we developed sort of a preliminary list of what those features might be. Then Lauren presented a couple different options for platforms. One was called Slack, S-L-A-C-K, and one was Microsoft Teams. Both of those had limitations in the free version in terms of how many people could collaborate at the same time, how many files you could store, how long the files could stay current. So some of those limitations were removed if you went to a paid version, but the problem with that is that the paid versions were typically $5 a month or so per user. So you start multiplying that by multiple EACs, it starts to get pretty expensive. So the other option was to try to piggyback on the We Conserve PA website, which that's a Pennsylvania-wide website for EACs. So what and there's been some discussion, some preliminary discussion with those folks about maybe creating a space on the We Conserve PA website specifically for this Lehigh Valley EAC collaboration. But that would require them to do some programming and to create the features that we want. So it's unclear whether they would agree to do that or not. So where we left things was that the Allentown EAC is going to send a list of features that we might want to include in this collaboration tool to each of the attendees. We will then distribute that to our various EAC members and try to collect any additional ideas for features. That will all get fed back then to the Allentown EAC, who will develop a master list. And the idea is that they want to present that to We Conserve PA to see how many of those features they might be able to include in a special sort of sub-website specific for the Lehigh Valley. So I'm supposed to receive that list by probably in the next week or so. So I will then distribute that to all of our members and get some additional feedback. The idea would be to probably present the master list back to the We Conserve PA folks probably by maybe end of October. And then based on their response, we could decide whether we want to move forward with them or create a separate collaboration tool. If we do a separate collaboration tool, it would likely be using one of the free versions, at least initially, and just living with some of those limitations. I think it's prudent to start small and have limited features just to see how much usage a tool like this would receive before we decide, we want to have a full-blown website with all these collaboration features, et cetera, that might end up might require a budget to maintain. One point I brought up though is that it's going to be really important if we have this collaboration tool. I suggest that each EAC identify one member who would be responsible for keeping that EAC's information current. and that would be a requirement to participate in this, that you have to have a designated person to be maintaining your information on the site. The idea is it would be open to every EAC member and all of the EACs that are participating, but I think having that responsible person would be really essential.
Yeah, that's great. That's very important. I'm sure you've seen what happens with like the Lehigh Valley EAC when there isn't that continuum.
Yeah.
So,
And there seemed to be a lot of interest about trying to pool resources around common issues that might be difficult for individual EACs to spearhead, but if there was interest among numerous regional EACs, that might, be able to engender some more support for specific initiatives.
that's gonna be my question. Do you think like out of the 8 EACs that were there, the majority was that people would support this and they would participate in this and they see kind of long-term benefit for this collaboration?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, we've had this sort of halting effort to collaborate among the regional EACs, and so there's definitely interest in doing that. And I think having some kind of online tool to help us do that would be, would be something that would be supported. I could see it as something that could help us promote events where there'd be interest across EACs. There was mention of, some EAC members might want to attend meetings of other EACs, and so knowing when those are and what the topics are they're going to cover would be helpful in making those decisions. Unfortunately, we got into a sidebar on plastic bag bans and how various EACs have attempted that and without much success. So there was some discussion of, whether that would be something that, a regional-wide effort might be more successful. And that fortunately we shut that down, saying, that's not what we're talking about today, but it kept coming up, and so.
That was my immediate thought of being one of those regional
But there could be efforts like that have regional impact that would be would be better supported by multiple EACs than just single EACs. I mean, one point I made though is that with things like say a plastic bag ban, we're advisory groups, so we're not going to be recommending anything. It's up to us to get, maybe it's something we would bring to our board, and if the board approved it, then we could say, South Whitehall Township recommends this. But, I think we have to be really careful that as advisory groups, we're not promoting initiatives that, without having, our township governance approval of those initiatives, right?
Yeah.
I had another question. So, for the We Can Serve website, do we know who's hosting that or like managing that now? Is that like a?
Well, We Can Serve PA is the organization.
So that's their individual organization and they're managing.
That's a statewide organization.
So it's
They have
state.
staff.
So
Yeah,
it's
they have a
statewide
staff, yeah.
Okay. So that's.
You can go to their website now and.
I'm sure I have. I just didn't know. So that's a harder thing to manage. A state website to be able to have change data and have like an individual person go on. I just don't know if it's. I mean, certainly I'm bringing my 2 cents into it. To have an online presence, to have us all communicate together, to be able to really post things and have a calendar. I don't know that.
They do a good job of an interactive type of website, and they certainly have the capabilities. I think the problem, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, is they would have to carve out something specific for our little corner.
Right, and that's
right,
the thought.
And that's what I'm thinking would be.
Because they maintain the statewide EAC network. So they do
Right.
some of that on
Okay.
a high level, probably nowhere near the level of collaboration that we would be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of, I like the idea of going to them with our list of this is what we absolutely need, and then asking the question.
And then the individual EACs would have to join We Can Serve PA, but that's like about $250, $300 a year. So not
And there's a lot of other benefits to that
Yeah, sure,
membership.
yeah.
And is that something the township would sponsor?
It's probably be something that we would look into with our other like sponsorships and things
How
like
much
that.
was it again?
About 250, 300 a year.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Well, that
Yeah.
answers that then.
The other thing I was going to bring up at courtesy of the floor is like they have a fall gathering, so there's a cost to that, and I can bring it up in there, and that's one of those things we look at with like sponsorship is if it can be covered, like if there's a township sponsorship, does that cover certain members of the EAC to go to some of those instead of like the individual costs?
It's October 5th, May
Yes.
30 to 4th.
Yes.
We don't have to talk about it now. I just,
So I think it's, it's an idea that has some merit. There's still a lot of details that need to be fleshed out. And, also I think it would have to be proven to be useful, right? I think it's the kind of thing that sounds great, when you mention it, but the actual mechanics of keeping it updated and making sure that there's enough information there that it's worthwhile for people to keep going back to it would take a lot of work. And so, I think it's prudent to just proceed slowly here and kind of start small and build from that.
I imagine it'd be nice if there was that one pilot project that could be like a demonstrated success out of it, like maybe not a plastic,
Right, yeah,
regional
right,
plastic
yeah.
bag ban, but like some sort of regional thing to say, hey, we were able to do this, it worked through the collaboration, and here's the outcome, and I think that could be encouraging. For
Yeah, I mean,
EACs.
sponsoring some kind of event with speakers or something like that would be a great example of how you could use a collaborative network like this to pull people in and get attendance and, right,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, like the Green Gala, right?
Yeah, hey, yeah. Well, thank you so much for attending that, and thank you for staying involved in that, Frank. So you'll send out the recommended list of features to
Yes,
all of us,
and then we'll get input
respond.
from the rest of our.
Excellent. Next on the agenda, courtesy of the floor, the only thing I want to mention is Sarah and I just said the EAC Fall Gathering registration is open for that. That is on October 5th. It's $75 per person, and it's down at is it at the Temp?
In Tempe.
At the Arboretum. Yes, Temple Ambler campus. They've had online options in the past, but I'm not seeing one. So I don't
That might have
think
been a COVID thing.
they probably started during COVID, and I bet attendance sort of fell off. That they thought it's just easier to do in person.
45 minutes away.
Yeah. So we can look at that. I think the more so the reason, and like I said, I don't know as far as the cost. I don't know. We don't have a budget for this year. But if anyone has interest, let me know and we can start to look at it. But I think just sharing some of the resources that We Can Serve PA has for the EAC network is a good thing for us to continue to look at. If you haven't signed up to their newsletters, they're great newsletters. They have tons of sometimes free events and just general write-ups of some of the things they already have on their pretty comprehensive website. So, and yeah, maybe next year we can look at doing something if it makes sense to send a couple of members to the gathering. Anything else for courtesy of the floor? Okay. Not seeing anything. Agenda item 8, motion to adjourn. Motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. All in favor? Anything
Aye.
else? Okay.
All right.
Meeting adjourned. We will see you next month. Frank will run the next meeting as the new official chair. And I will follow up later this week. Thank you all.